I'm not crying, I'm just thinking about the haters. Ooh, my face is a bit dry right there. My goodness. Hey fresties, welcome back to Wattpad Wednesdays. Today we are talking all about hate. Getting hate on Wattpad, not giving it. That would be a very different video. I think that hate isn't really that prevalent on Wattpad, and as a result, it sort of becomes a topic that is not talked about a whole lot. So I'm happy to shed some light on the subject and acknowledge the fact that yes, it does happen sometimes. I have experienced it myself. Yes, I'm using a heating pad, okay? It's really cold outside. And you can probably hear the wind right now because it's blowing. What else does wind do? I think it's important to acknowledge that because Wattpad is a site where we share works of creativity, whether that be in poetry or fiction writing or nonfiction writing even, the hate that happens on there can be a little different than hate that happens on other social media. It can take the form of being hate against you, or it can take the form of being hate against your work. So the first subset that I'm going to talk about is hate against your writing or your characters. And I feel like this is the more common form of hate on Wattpad because a lot of times when people are seeking out content on Wattpad, they're just there for the content. They're not really addressing the writer behind the content. You know, sometimes I think that readers can almost forget that there is an author behind the content. They're just there for the stories that they want to read. As a result, it is not all that uncommon for them to leave comments that are a little rough. These are comments that some people might try to argue are criticisms, but I think that any writer knows that there is a right way to do criticism and a very, very wrong way. If your criticism can be mistaken for hate, then chances are, in my opinion, that it is actually just a hate comment. So examples: leaving comments that are vehemently against one of your characters, like just absolutely vile comments towards a character, comments that are very aggressively negative towards your plotline or your story, like just tearing into everything and anything that they can. Things that could be formed into criticisms, like, oh, I think this character doesn't have enough development, or, you know, I wish that maybe the plotline would have taken a different turn here, or I was expecting something a little different based on the description of the book, but that aren't worded in quite that way. When dealing with these types of comments, I feel like it's especially important to remember your why. A-E-I-O-U, always remember your why. I don't know why I say the things that I do. So, for example, if somebody is absolutely tearing into a character that you've written and a character that you love, you know, maybe it's your main protagonist and they are just really aggressively insulting this character, sometimes it can be easy to question yourself and think, does this character suck? To deter these thoughts, which can be productive at times, but I think are very unwarranted when it comes from somebody's absolutely vulgar comments. Remembering your why is especially important. You think about why you wrote that character the way you did, why they have the flaws that they do, why that they specifically need to go through the plot that you've written for them. Think about remembering why your story is important and meaningful. And that doesn't even have to be, you know, important in a narrative sense, like important in the lesson that it teaches or anything. It can just be important to you because you enjoy it. The story doesn't have to be meaningful in the way where, you know, it teaches something or the character even goes through an arc. You know I always promote writing in that way for your story to really be meaningful, but sometimes we just want to write something because we enjoy it. Maybe we just want a story packed with drama and it doesn't really have anything to do with underlying themes or messages. But if you are enjoying it and it means something to you, then that's enough. That is enough of a why to keep it the way that it is and not fall victim to people who don't understand that. Again, I want to say, because I know that some people might get on my case about it, criticism is valid and taking criticism is valid, but you have to decide for yourself when you feel like you actually want to take criticism. If there's an element of your story that you love and you do not want to change, but it gets feedback that maybe other people don't like it so much, but you just are in love with that part of your story, you don't have to change it just because other people don't like it. And while this is true for criticism, I think it's especially true for hate, because these people aren't trying to help you with your story. They're just trying to tear it down and turn it into exactly what they want it to be. My second tip for this type of hate is to just ignore it. Honestly, that's what I do most of the time. On one of my books, May the Best Ex Win, the character Emily in that book gets so much hate, so much criticism because she is a bit quiet and standoffish, and she dresses a bit like a tomboy, and so people automatically see that and they put her into the category of, oh, I'm not like other girls type thing, which is extremely frustrating and annoying. And hey, guess what? There are quiet and standoffish girls out there just because that's who they are. They're not trying to fit into whatever box you're trying to put them into. Anyway, this is a ramble, but those comments obviously, clearly get me very heated, and I could spend hours and hours replying to all of them and explaining myself, but it's easier to just ignore it because I know why I wrote Emily the way that I did. I know my character the way that you know your characters, and I don't feel the need to sit there and try to explain it to people who don't understand it or don't like it when I have other people who do understand it and do like it. So frankly, it's easier to just not even acknowledge it. My voice cracked. Don't acknowledge that. I know that it can feel like you should reply to every single comment that you get, but it's important to remember that you are not obligated to reply just because somebody is giving feedback on your work. Just because somebody's interacting with you doesn't mean that you have to give them any attention. And I know that that might sound kind of mean, but if you have people who are interacting with you in a positive way or giving criticism in a way that is actually helpful, it's better to spend your time interacting with those people and to just let the hate comments go by the wayside and just don't even give them the attention that they're asking for. At the end of the day, people are allowed to say what they want about your characters and your plot and whatever else, and you're allowed to ignore it. Now, because I know that that stance probably doesn't work for some people, if you do want to reply, I recommend being collected. I definitely would not recommend getting into something heated in the Wattpad comments. I wouldn't recommend, coming in with the same aggression that other people might be giving to you. But if you do really want to explain your reasons for writing something or someone the way that you did, feel free. You have that right. Again, I feel like I said before, readers can sometimes forget or just not realize altogether that authors see everything that they comment. So they might not even realize that their harsh words are being seen by the person whose story they're reading. And they might approach things a little differently in the future if you do reply and just take on a calm demeanor with them, which I know it might not be that easy. Sometimes I think just the shock of getting a reply to begin with is enough to tell these people, hey, I'm here, I see what you're saying, back off a little. If somebody's being way out of line, especially if you have replied to them and they're still going, and maybe if you've even asked them to stop, or if you haven't done any of that and you just are tired of seeing their comments, you're allowed to mute somebody on Wattpad. I just looked at the page before making this video because I wanted to make sure, and there are no requirements for muting somebody. You can mute whoever you want. You can go on there and mute me if you want. Please don't, but you can if you want. Muting makes it so they cannot interact with your works or your profile. You will not see their comments on anybody else's work on Wattpad. They won't see your comments. They can't message you. Basically, it's like blocking somebody. And if you do this and they still go out of their way to harass you, like if they create another account or something, or are using somebody else's account to get through to your works, you can submit a ticket to Wattpad and report this person for harassment. Now, no matter the severity of hate, it can get pretty difficult to deal with. I've spoken before on how I used to have a fanfiction up on a different account, and the main female lead in that fanfiction, who was based on me, by the way, because I was still doing self-insert stuff at this time, she got just torn apart. Like, the hate against her was ridiculous. It just got to a point where I was like, I don't want to read these type of comments anymore. Wow, it is getting really dark in here. What the heck? Now I look green. Do I look green to you? I look green. The supportive comments were really nice, and I loved the audience I had that actually appreciated the story and understood why I wrote it the way I did, but the amount of people who didn't understand, it was just getting too much to deal with, and I didn't want to deal with it anymore. So I unpublished that story. And if you ever feel like you want to unpublish a story, that's valid. As I've said before, you do not owe anybody anything. You don't owe your readers to keep that story up if people are getting out of hand. But in that same regard, I never want anybody to feel like they have to take something down just because they're getting mean comments on it. At the end of the day, it's very important to remember as a writer that every single book gets mixed reviews. If you go to Goodreads and you search up your favorite book, there are going to be people on there who gave it a 1-star review. Different people just like different things. Sometimes people hate something in a way that you can't even comprehend because you just love it so much. Every piece of media gets a mixed response from viewers. Chances are that out there is somebody, and many people, there's probably many people who are going to read your work and cherish it and love it, and who would give it a 5-star review. I truly believe that there is an audience for everything. While you might not find it easily at first, and you may have to deal with some people who are not members of that audience, it's worth sticking around for, in my opinion. I swear I'm not crying. My eye was twitching every day for like 5 months, at least once a day, every single day. Now, in the past 3 days, the twitching, done. I decided I don't want to do that anymore. Now it's watering all the time. Like, it just doesn't stop. I don't know I need to go to the optometrist, okay? So the next type of hate that we are talking about is one that's much more serious, which is hate against you specifically. Now, again, I don't want to say that you shouldn't stick up for yourself, because obviously if you want to, you have that right, and you should feel empowered to do so. But again, I just feel like dealing with these people is way more trouble than it's worth. And I think the much easier and faster route is to just report them. Hate that is specifically targeted at you and is saying mean things about you, that falls under the harassment and bullying section of the report feature on Wattpad. So do that. Just mute them, report them, and try not to let it get to you too much. Obviously easier said than done. If you do have supporters on Wattpad, really try to just focus on the love and attention that they give you rather than negativity from somebody who is probably just trying to stir something up. I personally have had really good experiences with reporting to Wattpad. For me, it was not for hate, it was for plagiarism actually, but the response was very fast and very efficient. They just did exactly what I wanted them to do. So yeah, I would definitely recommend taking that route. And my last tip is suitable for any situation, honestly. If you feel the need to take a break from Wattpad, do so. Don't hesitate, and most importantly, do not feel guilty. Anybody who truly supports you will understand and will probably encourage you to do this if it's going to help with your mental health, and it's just going to make it so you're not caught up in any drama that might be happening on the platform at the time. And there's a lot of different ways to do this. If you want to take a break but you don't want to leave your readers hanging, you can always just turn off Wattpad notifications on your phone, but log in once a week and update, and then just poof, disappear again. There's a lot of freedom in how you use Wattpad, and I think that makes it easier to deal with the hate that you might get on there. All that being said, my final message is that I know that hate can really suck. I mean, what else can you say about it, truly? But as I mentioned earlier, I think that it is really worth powering through that, taking the necessary steps for you to deal with it and staying on the platform. For me personally, if I had stopped posting on Wattpad just because of the hate comments that I got, I would have missed out on a lot of positivity and support from the people who found my stories and actually really enjoyed them. I have no regrets in taking down the story that I did take down, but I also have no regrets in leaving up the story that I left up. So even though it can be difficult, and it sucks that we even have to deal with it in the first place, I think that it is worth dealing with and worth staying on the platform. Thankfully, as far as I can tell, hate on Wattpad is scarce compared to hate on other platforms, And usually it does take the form of people being oblivious that authors really do see their comments. Hopefully readers can become more and more aware that there really is somebody behind the words that they're reading. So that's all I have for you guys today. I hope that you enjoyed the video, that it was helpful, and that hopefully you don't even have to deal with any of this and this video never is any of use to you because you don't get any hate. That was a messy sentence, but you know what I mean. Thanks for liking, commenting, subscribing, all that good stuff. The both of us hope to see you in the next Wattpad Wednesday video, and yeah, have a good one. Oh, thumbnail. Almost forgot. Seriously, almost forgot. My finger was this close to pressing the stop button.